Hello everyone, this is Vero and welcome to Wonder No More. Wonder No More is a kinetic visual novel. I think it features a samurai and a village girl going through their story in pre-modern Japan. This is more of a Vero reads rather than a Vero plays because it's gonna be a kinetic visual novel where there ain't gonna be any choices for me to choose, so sit back, relax, and fuck, I don't think my voice is good enough for this, but Wonder No More takes place on an alternate Earth. Though obviously based off feudal Japan, the towns described in Wonder No More are completely fictional, as are characters, events, and so on. Any similarities to real people, places, or events are entirely coincidental. Do not expect historical references or any mention of real wars or events. WNM is just an indie game that was made to be enjoyed. I understand. When I was a boy, joining the Kodokushi was my dream. Every day I heard tales of their exploits, whether they were protecting our land, driving away enemy forces, or taking the fight directly to them. They were hailed as an elite military force devoted to protecting and expanding my kingdom's reach and always serving the people righteously. Thanks to them, we could leave without fear of being conquered. In fact, our territory actually expanded as time went on, all thanks to their tireless efforts and unyielding bravery. The Kodokushi were truly our saviors, the most forthright, noble souls in the country, if not the world. Believing that from the bottom of my heart, I trained every day, single-mindedly working towards my goal of joining Kodokushi. I grew up to be strong, fast, flexible, beyond the reach of any of my peers. As a result, before I even reached adulthood, I was already a top contender to join the Kodokushi, and the day I hit 18, I was welcomed with open arms. It was the happiest moment of my life. A decade of training had paid off, and my dream had been realized. Or so I thought. The village standing before me now, but to a crypt and devoid of human life, was the work of the Kodokushi. It was not an enemy village. There were no combatants to be found here, nor did its inhabitants pose any threats. It was just an ordinary, everyday village stuck between two opposing kingdoms. For the Kodokushi, that was reason enough. After joining the Kodokushi, I quickly realized that our work was neither noble nor righteous. We were not saviors of the people. We were not almighty defenders protecting innocent civilians from harm. We were a death squad. Every day we would venture forth, treading just a little bit further away from home, searching for the enemy. An honorable task, to be sure. We would drive away any threats before they could further encroach upon our land, taking the fight away from innocent passerby. But as I soon learned, the Kodokushi's definition of an enemy differed vastly from my own. Any village not under our kingdom's direct control or not paying us a protection fee would be decimated. Thousands of innocent people whose only crime was not to grow up under our jurisdiction were killed in cold blood, never even given a chance to surrender. We slaughtered men, women, and children, even newborn babies, all in the name of our lord, the emperor. I should have known they would follow me here. Nobody leaves the Kodokushi alive, no matter how high their rank or how long they served. Now, because I chose to flee here, those people are all... Bastard isn't here either. Are we even going the right way? This is Captain Nabatame we're talking about. He knows how we operate. He's probably heading in the opposite direction. Damn, I hadn't thought about that. Let's keep moving. Wherever he's headed, Captain Nabatame isn't here. I watched in silence from a nearby forest as the last of the Kodokushi moved on. I had successfully evaded their surveillance and hidden myself by blending in with my surroundings just as the Kodokushi themselves have taught me. So I waited, patiently biding my time until the last unit left my sight, at which point I could finally relax once more. Those bloodhounds don't give up. It's understandable that they would want to silence me given what I know, but to chase me this far away from the kingdom. Even I won't be able to evade them forever. Though still alight, I returned to the village that the Kouichirou had just passed through. I had been running for weeks and I desperately needed food and water, much more than I could find while fleeing through desolate wastelands and forests. If I hurry, maybe I can find some supplies before they are all burned to ash. I don't care what it is, at this point, plain rice and water would be enough. With that simple goal in mind, I wandered around the village, quickly checking each building for scraps of food. I put out fires where I could using sheets and other miscellaneous pieces of cloth to deny oxygen to the flames, but as far as food was concerned, I found nothing. Only bloody corpses and scorched rations remained, leaving me without a single morsel to eat. Come on, there has to be something edible around here that hasn't been torched. How poor does a village have to be to not have... As I frantically searched for food, I heard a faint whimper from within one of the houses. I immediately abandoned my search and headed to the next house over, quickly putting out the flames as I listened for the voice I had heard moments ago. But even without another sound to go on, there was only one other room in the house, and the moment I opened the door, I saw... Girl. Mama. Papa. Within a burning village, one in which no survivors should have remained, was a young girl. A single girl crying alone in a house's storeroom, surrounded by rations I would have killed for mere minutes ago. As my gaze rested on the girl, however, food was the last thing on my mind. All I could see was a young girl orphaned by an unwarranted, unprovoked attack for which I was responsible. Amazing. This little girl actually managed to hide herself from the Kouichirou. I am the one they're after, of course, and they've been pursuing me for weeks now, so it's not unthinkable that a few innocents might escape their grasp. Even so... Huh? I opened the storeroom's door wider, revealing my presence to the girl sobbing within. She gazed at me in shock, not expecting to be discovered, and no doubt wondering whether I was friend or foe. And once her eyes made their way to the katana at my hip, she had her answer. Mama, Papa, help me. Once again, crying out for her parents, the young girl moved back, trying to put as much distance between us as she could. She pushed back with her legs, scraping her tattered yukata on the floor while tightly holding something in her hand. Even as she almost tipped over, the girl didn't use her hands. She instead grasped tightly at her wrist, refusing to let go. That was when I realized that this girl had lost more than just her family. This poor girl, she can't be any older than 14 years old. Yet she's already lost not only her family but also a limb. Even if she survives, life isn't going to be easy for her. Everyone she once knew is now dead, and her village will need repairs impossible for a girl with one hand. Would it be kinder of me to end her misery? I put my hand on the hilt of my katana, which dangled warily from my hip. As I did so, the girl before me let out an inaudible whimper and froze on the spot. Little girl, what is your name? The girl opened her mouth to speak, but hesitated to actually respond. Her vocal cords, like the rest of her body, froze in my presence, worried that the blade at my hip was not just for show. Chiyo Ayase. Though barely audible, the girl before me answered, her voice wavering as she did. Tell me, Chiyo, do you want to live? Chiyo continued to stare at me with fear in her eyes, likely interpreting my question as a threat. I see. I drew my katana from its sheath and pointed its tip toward the girl's throat. I thought my days of killing defenseless children were over, but just this once, I slowly pulled my katana to the side, preparing to cut down the girl before me with a single strike. With a simple flick of the wrist, I would behead her, granting instant death to a girl who deserved no further pain. If that is your wish, Chiyo, then I don't want to die. A second before I could swing my blade, Chiyo shouted out, finally completing her answer. Immobilized by fear, her words reached my ears in fragments, giving the illusion that the girl wished for death. But with strong conviction and unmistakable will to live, Chiyo's true desire reached my ears at last, and the blade in my hand lost all of its power. What an impressive girl. Even with her entire life going up in flames, she still haven't lost her will to live. Regardless, she's still just a young girl, and a child with one hand cannot hope to survive out here on her own. If she's going to have any shot at survival, then... Alright, Chiyo, I understand. If you truly wish to live, then as the one responsible for all of this, it is my duty to make sure that happens. I sheathed my blade and reached out my hand towards the shivering girl. My name is Kouichirou Nabatame. I am a trader on the run from my kingdom. And from this day onward, Chiyo, you are my vulva. Damn, 1 year later. Hotsu Village, home of the merciful Nabatame family. In the year that passed since its destruction, Hotsu Village has slowly been restored. All by ourselves, Chiyo and I have worked tirelessly to bring life back to this village. And although we are still a long way from finished, our efforts have not been in vain. The houses I was able to save from the fire have been undergoing steady repairs, mostly at the hands of yours truly, to the point where many of the buildings are habitable once more. Chiyo, unable to assist with the manual labor, familiarized herself with the neighboring forest and took on the role of a gatherer, amassing fruit and berries for the two of us to eat. She also showed me where her family used to go for water, a river within the forest in which the two of us now bathe. Like so, we were able to secure the bare essentials, food, water, and shelter. We developed a routine, divided our duties, and eventually learned to trust one another with our lives, just like a real family. Oh my, if it isn't Chiyo-chan. Are you done gathering food already? As I wandered through the village, the mention of a familiar name caught my attention. Almost, just one more basket and I'll be done. You really are a good girl. Kouichirou-sama doesn't know how lucky he is to have such a wonderful young girl by his side. Following Chiyo's voice, I turned around the corner to find her conversing with an elderly woman whose name I had not yet learned. Speak of the devil, good morning, Nabatame-sama. Please, be at ease, just call me Kouichirou, like everyone else does. Understood, Kouichirou-sama. So, are you here to check up on Chiyo-chan? Don't be silly. Ko is just looking for work that needs to be done. Oh, is that so? I wouldn't be surprised. Kouichirou-sama just can't sit still, can he? Not until this village has been restored to its former glory. Unless you'd like to take over for me, of course. Careful what you say, I might just take you up on that offer. Of course, you'd have to take over weaving clothing for everyone in my place. Cool, weaving, that I would like to see. I retract my offer. But if you need a loom, I might be able to make one. There are only minor repairs needed on the houses, so as long as we don't take in any new vagrants, I should have enough spare wood. Oh, Kouichirou-sama, that would be wonderful. You have no idea how much time and effort goes into making a single article of clothing. Is it really that difficult? I should be done gathering food soon too. If you need help. No, you don't have to do that, Chiyo-chan. My hands may be old and weary, but as long as they still serve a purpose, I'll be happy. Besides, there's no way I could gather food like you do. Let's each do our part, okay? Yeah, okay. On that note, the elderly woman walked away, wearing a troubled smile as she did. Weaving, like so many other tasks undertaken by members of our village, required two hands. Knowing this, the woman tried to let Chiyo down gently, reaffirming her place as a vital gatherer. But for Chiyo, that was not enough. Even as this town has taken in migrant after migrant, Chiyo's sense of responsibility hasn't changed in the slightest. From day one, she tried to do her best in every aspect, taking on tasks we both knew she couldn't possibly complete. And as the one person here who knows Chiyo better than anyone else, I know all too well what happens to her when her disability prevents Chiyo from doing her part. You know, Chiyo, even if traditional weaving requires two hands, the same cannot be said for looms. Would you like me to make a loom for you as well? Ko, are you saying that I might be possibly be able to weave after all? Sorry. I am indeed. Besides, if I'm making one loom, it shouldn't be difficult to make another one while I'm at it. What do you say? Do you want to give it a shot? Absolutely, I definitely want to try it. Kouichirou, you're the best. Remember you said that. Now let's get back to work. I'm just about to start on the wooden bowls you've been asking me for, so make sure to bring back enough to fill them, okay? Of course, you can count on me. Full of spirit once more, Chiyo dashed off with a skip in her step, eager to complete her morning duties. It was a close one. What was that old lady thinking? It may not be a rule, but even newcomers should have the sense to not shoot down Chiyo like that. And of course, the end result is that I now need to make 2 looms despite the fact that I've never even made one. Honestly, it's times like this when I miss living alone with Chiyo. Even if it was more work, life was simpler back then. I only had to look out for Chiyo and our duties were divided evenly, making for a straightforward routine life. Now this village houses a dozen or so residents, most of whom I don't even know the name of. Worse, half of them are too old or young to be put to work, so jobs can't be divided evenly. Without realizing it, I've become the leader of a budding village of wanderers. A few hours passed by since I spoke to Chiyo, and true to my promise, I greeted her with a pair of wooden bowls. Oh, those are really, well, I appreciate the effort. You didn't say a word. I can see how terrible they are. Oh, don't be like that. They aren't that bad. They just need a little fixing up, that's all. Preferably by someone else. You said it. The sooner we get some more able-bodied men around here, the better. As much as I enjoyed the solitary lifestyle Chiyo and I shared, it didn't take long for the 2 of us to realize we didn't possess the skills necessary to rebuild a village. For obvious reasons, I took on the manual labor, but that didn't change the fact that I lacked any knowledge of woodwork whatsoever. Similarly, Chiyo didn't know how to sew or cook, and many of the things she did know how to do proved too difficult with one hand. We gradually limped along, of course, making concessions along the way. I fumbled my way through basic repairs and Chiyo learned how to work around her disability. But even then, we were still amateurs. My shoddy repairs would not last forever and Chiyo would often run into tasks she couldn't complete no matter how hard she tried. Cheer up, you know I didn't mean it. You're doing your best just like everyone else here, and that's all anyone can ask of you. Thank you, Chiyo. I appreciate that. My pleasure. Now let's dig in. Well, the fruit is still fresh. Despite her complaints, Chiyo filled both bowls with a mixture of berries and fruits from the forest. She then placed the bowl on either side of the table and sat down, gesturing for me to do the same. Fruit and berries yet again. It's been months since I last ate meat, and that minor luxury was only because Chiyo found a wounded rabbit while she was gathering food. Forget laborers, what this village really needs is a hunter. While secretly pining for the taste of flesh, I unconsciously began to drool. Hey, I'm glad you were looking forward to this, but if you're that hungry, just dig in. Following Chiyo's line of sight, I hastily wiped my mouth and started eating. In reality, eating fruits and berries every day wasn't so bad. There was some variety based on how far into the forest Chiyo went, and the taste was quite sweet. Furthermore, after working hard all morning, the watery taste was rather refreshing. And even after eating a bowl full, I didn't feel bloated. Nice work, Chiyo. These taste great. I was hoping you'd like them. I went deep into the forest for this batch, especially for you. For me? That's right. You've been working non-stop lately, so I thought you deserved a little reward. If you know how hard I've been working, tell those other slackers to get to work. Even children can pick berries, right? And if they took over gathering food, you'd be able to help me out more often. Ko, don't be like that. Children can't discern between edible berries and poisonous ones, and none of them know the layout of the forest like I do. Just leave the food gathering to me, and if you feel like you need a break, then take one. Having said her piece, Chiyo herself began to eat the platter she had prepared. She joyfully consumed mouthful after mouthful, not at all tired of the familiar taste. But rather than join her, I continued to watch Chiyo, deriving a strange sense of pleasure from watching her elation. It's hard to believe that even now, after living together for a full year, I'm still learning from Chiyo. Rather than worrying about the division of labor or fretting over the food I eat, I should be content with what I have. After all, if a girl like Chiyo, whose entire world came crashing down without warning, is still able to smile like that after all she's been through, then maybe one day. Don't just watch me eat, you need to keep up your energy up too, you know. I'm sorry that it's just the same as ever, but you still need to eat. Noticing that I wasn't eating, Chiyo softly reprimanded me in her usual kind-hearted manner. Don't apologize, Chiyo. You've not done nothing wrong. I was just happy to see you enjoying your food so much. That's no reason to not eat. You're the village leader, not to mention the only able-bodied man here. If you get sick, everyone will suffer. Okay, I get it. I'll eat too. You know, at times like this, you sound more like my wife than my vova. What? It's nothing like that. I just don't want you to get sick, that's all. What's wrong with a daughter caring for her father's health? Calm down, Chiyo. It was just a joke. Well, it was in poor taste. Still blushing, Chiyo looked straight down at her bowl and started to eat once more. Oh, Chiyo, don't you understand that it's a father's duty to make his daughter feel awkward? Because even if our age difference makes us more like siblings than a parent and child, by this point you are without a doubt my family. How old is this guy, 18? 2 months later. Araki, put that down. You're just going to hurt yourself. That's a 2-person job, even for adults. Yes sir, Kouichirou-sama. Azai, help your brother to keep the frame in place. I want that door fixed before any more bugs make it inside. Understood, Kouichirou-sama. Watching on with pride and anxiety alike, I instructed my 2 young pupils as they fixed the front door of their new home. Araki and Azai both made a lot of mistakes, but they listened to me intently and continued to improve every day. Like this, Kouichirou-sama? Yes, just like that. Be mindful that you don't pierce the sheets. One little hole is all it takes for bugs to get in. Making do with what we had available, my pupils and I removed the bulk of the house's old front door, leaving only the frame. We then replaced the charred woods with sheets, making for a lightweight door only secure enough to keep out insects and other pests. I guess this will have to do, at least for the time being. I would have rationed the wood more carefully if I'd known we'd be taking in another family so soon, but if I had that kind of foresight, I wouldn't be here to begin with. All I can do now is schedule another lumber gathering trip into the forest. How does this look, Kouichirou-sama? Now, very good, Azai. That'll do for now. You two should go tell your parents the good news, then report back to me after lunch. Yes, sir. Araki and Azai bowed, then ran inside to inform their parents, and that would be my cue to check on my own family. By the time I returned to home, Chiyo was already waiting for me. She sat in front of the living room table, exercising great restraint as she fought her desire to start eating without me. There you are, Ko. I was beginning to think you were going to work through lunch. Me, miss lunch, not a chance. I wouldn't risk invoking your anger again by not eating. Glad to hear it. I took my place on the other side of the table, directly opposite of Chiyo. So how are the repairs in the Kihei family home going? Are the boys doing well? They're enthusiastic enough, but it'll be a while before they're ready to take over for me. Still, it is nice to have some extra hands. I know what you mean. Kana-chan has been a big help in collecting food and water from the forest. Haha, you two really are getting along well, aren't you? Of course. I've waited a long time for a girl my own age to come along. A little over 1 month ago, a new family wandered into our village. Like me, they fled from the Mirai Kingdom, fearing for their lives. Although they were difficult to accommodate at first, the family of 5 has since proven invaluable. Provided much needed labor, which Chiyo and I were previously doing ourselves. Mother of the family, another elderly woman, has been learning how to weave, and the father has been whittling down spare wood in order to make crude weaponry. More importantly, the 2 sons Azai and Araki, 12 and 13 years old, have been helping me with any manual labor. Similarly, their older sister Kana quickly became friends with Chiyo and has been learning the layout of the forest, as well as which plants are edible and which are poisonous. Speaking of Kana, do you feel that she knows the forest well by now? I was thinking of sending the boys in there to search for lumber, so it would help if she escorted them while you continued gathering food. Well, I guess, but does that mean the 2 of us won't be taking any more trips through the forest? You actually want to walk through the forest with me? When I first came here, the last thing you wanted was to be alone with me, especially in the forest. That was a long time ago. Your former allies killed my family, and you expected me to just go along with you? Of course I didn't want to go. Yeah. When you put it like that, I can't really blame you. But I'm happy to hear that your mistrust is in the past. It really is easier to navigate through the forest with your help. Of course it is. You should know by now how reliable I am. But that still doesn't answer my question. Right. I'll walk through the forest. If you want to go with me that badly, I suppose we could put Kana on food gathering duty and have her brothers help her out. It's not that I want to go with you or anything. I just thought that it would be nice. Chiyo hung her head and began to nibble on one of the berries in her bowl. This daughter of mine really can't be honest with herself. Even after all this time, she still feels the need to hide her feelings from me. Perhaps 1 year isn't enough time for two people to become family after all. No, that's just how girls are, huh? The next day. Whoa, this place is huge. Do you really come here every day, Nissan? Hey, look, there's a path carved through the bush. Azai, I'll race you to the big tree over there. You're on. Hey, hold on a minute. Don't go running off on your own. Geez, why don't you two ever listen to me? Shortly after entering the forest, Azai and Araki ran off. Their older sister, Kana, soon gave chase but proved no match for her energetic siblings and could only trail behind. That didn't take long. You know how those two are. They may listen to you intently, but their sister is another matter altogether. I guess that's just how children are. Do you have any siblings, Ko? I know it's a bit late to be asking now, but you're always reluctant to talk about your past, so... It's alright, it's just my old work that I don't like to talk about. And no, I don't have any siblings, but I did have a couple of childhood friends and they both had siblings, so I know what it's like. That must have been nice. As you already know, I was an only child and there weren't any other kids around my age either, so even if Kana and her family had come along before our village was set alight, I'm sure we still would have wound up becoming friends. Though, I suppose it's for the best that they came afterwards, isn't it? Yes, you're right. If the Kihei family had fled the Mirai Kingdom before I did, their deaths would now be hanging over my head just like so many others. So what were your childhood friends like? Were they good people? Did you remain friends with them when you grew up? Oh, my friends. It's a bit complicated. Is that so? Let me guess. One of them was a girl and the other was a boy? You're right. But it's not what you think. Haru, a while after she found out what Ito and I were doing for a living, she took her own life. I see. I'm sorry, Ko. I didn't mean to. It's fine. There was no way you could have known that. Yeah, but... Chiyo looked up at me with sadness in her eyes. I wasn't sure if she felt sympathy, pity, or a sense of solidarity, given what had happened to her own family. But whichever feeling was behind that look, I couldn't stand seeing Chiyo look at me like that again. Forget about it, alright? Let's go find some lumber before the kids finish doing their rounds. Okay. Chiyo and I walked through the forest in relative silence. In the distance, we could hear rummaging, in addition to the occasional gleeful shout or cry of annoyance. Nya, you're never gonna catch me, Ni-chan. Oops, almost. You need to work on your leg strength, Ni-chan. Hold still, you brats. Did you ever just listen to your sister? I'm trying to teach you something important. Whatever, we're working men now. We'll leave the food gathering to the women. Right, we fixed the house, so you go get the food. That's how society works. You brats. Fine, run through some poison ivy for all I care. Good luck getting out of this forest on your own. Ni-chan? Did Ni-chan just abandon us? I tried to stifle my laughter as Chiyo and I listened in on a conversation being held between the Kihei siblings. Those three sure do get along well. You can say that again. They're like that every day, yet they always make up in the end. Indeed, they're just like how we used to be. I try to help you or ask you a question and you just brush me off. Well, excuse me for not trusting a complete stranger. Besides, you were far from perfect yourself. I told you time and time again not to follow me, and whenever you did, you wound up getting lost in the forest. Hey, Hey, I was just looking out for you. If you say so. At any rate, you seem to have learned your lesson, given that you asked me to be your guide. Why wouldn't I? Nobody in Hotsu village knows this forest like you do. So, elder spirit of the forest, where do you think one might find lumber suitable for repairing houses? Right this way, befuddled traveler. Chiyo led the way deeper into the forest, taking me to an unfamiliar area. Although I didn't know the forest as well as Chiyo, I had spent enough time in there to know that the area close to town. So if I didn't know where I was, it was a safe bet that we were in pretty deep. I should really make an axe one of these days. Going this far into the forest just to search for fallen trees isn't practical. Nor is carrying back wood over such a distance. The village is in decent shape now and I have Asa and Araki to help me. So I should have more time to fashion a few more tools. With ample wood lying around from the toils of former villagers, not to mention the remains of several houses, securing lumber was never a high priority. My early days in Hotsu were spent utilizing the resources my predecessors had left behind, and using makeshift tools in place of anything more useful, like a hammer and an axe. But with a growing village, ongoing repairs, and the occasional newcomer, relying on existing resources was no longer an option. Okay, this ought to do it. What do you think? Did I come true or what? Chiyo stopped in front of a fallen tree which had been pierced by a large rock as it landed. It would still require brute strength to tear off anything worthwhile and I'd need an axe to take away most of it, but it was quite a find nonetheless. You sure did, as expected of my wonderful daughter. You're never going to give up this whole Father Dova thing a rest, are you? Like I told you from the beginning, we're far too close in age to be parent and child. Oh Jesus. Nobody in the village believes it anyway. Why do you... Really? Damn. Kid outside my room doesn't stop screaming, but why do you even bother saying it? Chiyo stared at me with a serious expression on her face, as though tired of the farce. I know it's not believable, that isn't the point. Chiyo, what do you suppose the other villagers would think if we weren't parent and child? Exactly what they think of us now, right? Are you sure about that? A young man and woman not related by blood living together, calling one another by their first names without honorifics? Do I really need to spell it out for you? I still don't get it. You don't use honorifics with anyone, do you? And so what if we live together and aren't related by blood? That doesn't mean... Wait a minute, you don't mean... Chiyo's face was suddenly dyed bright red. Only 1 year away from being of age, Chiyo could easily pass for a young bride, especially if her husband was a renowned samurai. But after being on her own for so long and spending every day simply trying to survive, such frivolous thoughts never entered Chiyo's mind. You must be joking. Would marry a worthless samurai like you. Come now, there's no need to get defensive. Who's being defensive? I'm just setting the facts straight. Calm down, Chiyo. I have no intention of getting married again. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. I guess. Though it still doesn't explain why we're father and daughter and not siblings. She's got me there. To be honest, when I first saw Chiyo in that storeroom, I could only think of her as a little girl. A child who needed protecting, far too young and weak to be my sister. But I was wrong and now it's too late to change our story. That's because we look so different, you know? When people point out our dissimilar appearances, I can say you take after your mother. Is that right? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It's too late to change our story now anyway. Now let's get moving. You get the boys to help you with the lumber, and I'll go look for Kana-chan. Whatever you say, Chiyo. 3 days later. I think I've got it. Get careful with that, you don't want to lose a finger. Relax, I'm fine, it's just like Papa showed us. After devoting a few days to stockpiling lumber, Azai and Araki and I undertook a different task than usual. The village no longer required any urgent repairs, and we had gathered enough lumber to accommodate one more family should they appear. So with the knowledge their father bestowed upon us, our increasing awareness of the forest adjacent to Hotsu village, and more lumber than we needed. Done, my trap is complete. We began to make crude wooden traps. Well done, Azai. Now place the bait in the trap and move on to the next one. Yes sir, Kouichirou-sama. While the girls had been doing well in their role of providing berries and fruit for the village, the lack of variety was disheartening. Only once had I tasted flesh since coming to Hotsu, and every day I craved the taste of cooked meat more and more. So with a wannabe weaponsmith readily biding his time and his two sons both eager to eat meat again, I brought the three together for a new venture. Using string and sharpened wooden spikes, we fashioned basic traps triggered by pressure. By placing a few berries and leaves in the center of a trap, we would lure unsuspecting rabbits onto the string, at which point a wooden spike would be pulled forward and stab the rabbit from above. Kouichirou-sama, I think I made mine a little too big. That's an understatement. That trap is far too big for catching rabbits. But you might as well set it up anyway. Who knows, you might even catch a bear. A bear? Are there really bears in here, Kouichirou-sama? Of course not. There's nothing that dangerous around here. Oh, Chiyo, I didn't expect to see you here. Done already? Not yet. I just thought I'd see how you boys were doing. But from the look of it, you three still have a lot of work to do. How harsh. You only just started, you know. We'd be further along if Araki followed Papa's instructions. Hey, it's not my fault he can't explain anything properly. His explanation was fine. It's your brain that needs fixing. Come here. Like usual, Azai and Araki began brawling without hesitation. Though typically playful, the two often fought, and all it took was one sly comment from either brother before their fists began flying. Maybe I should teach those two how to wield the sword. It might do them some good to learn discipline and to vent their frustration productively. That didn't take much. Boys really are violent thugs, aren't they? If you want someone to agree with you, Chiyo, you should really be saying that to Kana. Besides, there's no harm in a little roughhousing, even when they're this close to the traps they just made. Boys! Stop that this instant! Azai and Araki both stopped at my command. They slowly walked back over, paying little attention to the two traps they had just set. Sorry, Kouichirou-sama. Yeah, we're sorry. Look, if you two want to play around, that's fine, but do it away from the traps you just set. Whoa, you're right. Understood, Kouichirou-sama. I'm going back to gathering food. You three have fun. Without another word, Chiyo walked straight past us deeper into the forest. Something tells me I'll be hearing more about that during lunch. Oh well, Chiyo's message was conveyed, and that's what matters. Alright, you two, back to work. Make sure to keep track of every trap you set. Chiyo, your sister and I all need to know exactly what to look out for. Got it? Understood. Yes sir, Kouichirou-sama. 4 days later. In the days following our first attempt at making traps, my pupils and I were quick to reap the rewards for our efforts. On the first night, we managed to capture 6 rabbits and 1 fox, all of which we skinned and consumed that very night. Although we didn't get to eat much considering how many villagers the meat was shared between, the familiar taste was almost enough to bring me to tears. In light of our success, the day we set up the same traps once again and crafted several more. With the taste of meat still fresh in our minds, Azai, Araki and I all did our part, setting up literally dozens of traps. Limited only by the amount of string at our disposal. Nonetheless, our efforts were rewarded once again. We captured more rabbits than last time, enough to divide up evenly between every member of our small village. This pattern repeated once more, and if all goes well, it will repeat yet again today. Okay, one bowl of nutritious goodies as requested. While I dreamed of another day's harvest, Chiyo placed my breakfast on the table. On either side, I found a bowl of fruit and berries, the same as ever. Why is that rabbit food on the table? We should still have some meat left over from the last night, shouldn't we? Ko, you know you can't eat meat every meal of the day, and you can't skip meals either. If you don't want your breakfast, I'm not cooking what you catch today. Hey now, let's not go crazy here. I'm eating, alright? Just watch me. Without hesitation, I crammed my mouth full of miscellaneous fruits and berries. Chiyo didn't seem terribly impressed, but she didn't lash out either, so I presumed that I was in the clear. Fine, as long as you eat what I prepare for you. Oh, but speaking of meat, have you thought about doing some fishing? I followed the river a bit further upstream yesterday and it looks like it leads to an underground spring. There were koi swimming around, can you believe that? I always thought it was strange for trees to flourish in the middle of nowhere like this, but if that spring leads to the ocean, then maybe. Kouichirou-sama, are you there? Mid-sentence, Chiyo's attention turned to the door where she found her new friend shouting as loud as she could. Kana-chan! I'm here, what's wrong? Kouichirou-sama, you're a samurai, right? Please, bring your sword and follow me. Without asking any questions, I grabbed my katana, essentially unused since I came to Hotsu, and followed Kana. She led me a short distance into the forest near where her brothers and I first began laying traps. Kana looked around anxiously on guard as she turned her head back and forth, searching for the danger she hadn't yet warned me about. Even without Kana saying anything, I can guess why I'm here. The large trap Araki made is gone, and there's a lot of blood where it once sat, far more blood than I'd expect from a rabbit or fox. Going by the bloody footprints, my guess is that someone stepped in the trap. The only question is, was it one of the boys or... Ah, there he is. A short walk from where the trap had been set, a wounded samurai sat on the ground nursing his leg. I could clearly see a large puncture wound where the trap had pierced him, and going by the dried blood surrounding the wound, I surmised that he had walked into the trap during the night. Well, what have we here? I removed my katana from its sheath and placed the bed against the fallen samurai's throat. Surprisingly, he didn't put up any resistance or draw his own weapon. Instead, the seated man stared at me in shock as though he had seen a ghost. Captain Nabatame? Sir, is that really you? Although I didn't recognize the man before me, he seemed to know exactly who I was. Unfortunately, the dominant expression on his face was surprise. Not fear or joy, so I couldn't be certain if he was once an ally or an enemy. I may not be the captain of Kodokushi anymore, but I am indeed Kouichirou Nabatame. State your name and your business. Oh, yes sir, my apologies. My name is Reizei Sadayori. I am here on official business from the Mirai Kingdom. Nabatame-sama, we received a report from a foreign trader that there was an undocumented village here, next to a forest full of life. I was sent to verify the claims and... Slow down. Who do you mean by we exactly? Who sent you? Well, it was indirect, but I suppose you could say it was the Kodokushi, sir. The Kodokushi. They must have pawned off the job when they realized it was a village they had already burned down last year. No point scouting a village they had already decimated after all. Sir, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but my leg. Alright, I understand. And approached Reizei. I will help you, but you have to do something for me too. Yes, of course, sir. It would be an honor. I'm glad you feel that way. First, you're going to hand me your katana and wakizashi. I can't have you wandering around here while you're carrying weapons. Second, you're going to report to the Kodokushi that you found a burned, uninhabited village next to the forest, and the forest itself contains nothing of value. Do you understand? Yes, sir, I understand. Kana and I walked away from the samurai, taking his weapons with us. Once we were out of earshot, Kana looked back at Reizei, then faced me with a complicated expression on her face. What is it, Kana? No, it's nothing important. I just... Kana tightly hugged the two sheathed blades. Are we really gonna help him? Why wouldn't we? You heard him, the man is a scout. He isn't here to harm us. I know that, but... Ah, there you two are. While Kana fumbled to find the right words, Chiyo finally caught up to us. Jeez, Kana-chan, you really surprised me there. I knew Ko was fast, but I never expected that kind of agility from you. I guess it's because I'm always chasing after my little brothers. Kana first forced herself to laugh for Chiyo's benefit, but her worry overshadowed any false joy. Kana-chan, what's going on? Why did you need Ko and... Chiyo's gaze drifted down to the two sheeted blades cradled in Kana's arm. I'll explain later. Kana, get a bucket and fill it with water. Chiyo, grab enough cloth to bind a person's legs many times over. Make it quick and meet me back here when you're done. Without argument, Kana and Chiyo did what I asked of them. They then handed me over the supplies I needed and hung back as I approached Reize once more. I used the water to clean his leg, washing out splinters from the puncture wound as I removed any obstructions I found. I then bound his leg with the cloth Chiyo gave me in order to stop the bleeding, and finally sent Reize off after reminding him of our deal. Is it really alright to just let him go like that? Kana-chan told me about your deal, but even so, how do you know he will honor it? With Reize no longer in sight, Kana picked up the bucket and remaining clothed and headed back to the village. Chiyo, however, was not convinced by what she had heard and seen and showed no sign of returning just yet. The simple answer is I don't. Reize might tell the Kodokushi the truth the second he returned, sparking a manhunt akin to my escape from last year. If you know that, then how could you let him go? You're supposed to be this village's leader. How could you knowingly endanger everyone like that? Chiyo shouted at me angrily, obviously not approving of my actions. And I couldn't blame her. To Chiyo, a young girl cut off from a greater society, my actions may indeed have seemed like those of a traitor. Even so, my actions were not without reason. Chiyo, what do you think would happen if I killed Reize? What do I think? Yes, if I killed that scout, what difference do you think it would have made? Isn't it obvious? That samurai wouldn't be able to report what he found, you or our village. We'd be safe. I shook at my head at Chiyo's naive conclusion. Chiyo, when a scout goes missing, they aren't simply forgotten. If you sent Kana into the forest and she never came back, where is the first place you would look for her? In the forest. Exactly. That isn't to say that you were wrong, Chiyo. Reize may indeed tell the Kodokushi where I am, but this way, there's still a chance that he'll honor our deal, and that's far better than guaranteed destruction at the hands of his comrades. I see. So even if the odds aren't in our favor, at least this way there's still a glimmer of hope. Correct, but there's more to it than that. I know it may not seem like much considering what's on the line, but even so, life is precious, Chiyo, and preserving life is something you should never feel bad about. Are they gonna kill us or what? Okay, I think this visual novel is gonna go for quite a while, so I'm gonna split this visual novel into parts. So this will be part 1 and part 2 will be up when my voice recovers, because you guys don't know how much 15 minutes of continuous reading does to your throat. Just trust me, it's like, ugh. Not like I'm reading like all that great anyway, but I try, so sorry about that. If you guys don't like this whole series, just let me know, I guess. Well, that's that then, alright? Thanks everyone for tuning in to Vero Reads Wonder No More. This is part 1, and I'll see you guys in the next part then. Stay frosty, y'all.